Hey folks, and welcome to Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. My name is Bridget. It is a pleasure to have you joining me today. We are making a very spectacular, very delicious cake, and we're going to be doing that using these wonderful whole lemons. So I'm calling this a holy lemon cake because we are going to be using the whole lemons, I mean skin and all, to produce really what is quite a fabulous cake. So one of the reasons I like cooking with lemons is that they are a seasonal fruit, as we know, and being a citrus, they're quite tangy, but they do have some amazing health properties. Like, for example, lemons are very high in vitamin C. Probably you guys know that. You've more than likely been given a hot lemon drink when you're feeling a little bit under the weather. Maybe it's a cold or a flu, but that is because of those amazing vitamin C qualities that lemons have. But not only that, they're very high in antioxidants, which means they help to fight off free radicals, and they are also a wonderfully anti-inflammatory fruit, which means that they help to just kind of fight back disease as well. So anti-inflammatory, wonderful for us, as we know. They taste incredible, and we're not going to be wasting anything today when it comes to lemons, because we're going to be using the whole fruit for my holy lemon cake. So the first thing that you want to do with your lemons is you need about 3 to 4 lemons, depending on the size, about medium-sized lemons, and you want to give them a really good wash. That is the first thing. Give your lemons a really good wash, just under cold water. Give them a little light scrub down, and once you've given them a wash, you're then going to place them into a small pot. I haven't done anything to them apart from wash them so far. Into a small pot, and you want to fully submerge your 3 to 4 lemons and enough water to cover them. So once you've got your 3 to 4 lemons in a pot, there we go. That's a half a lemon. I already started using that one. Once you've got all your lemons in the pot, then all you need to do is pop them onto the cooktop, and you want to bring your lemons to the boil. And once they come to the boil, allow them to cook for about 15 minutes. Now this is going to soften the lemons. You don't need they don't need any longer than 15 minutes. 15 minutes is plenty of time. And this will, in fact, soften those lemons up really nicely. And it'll give you access to what's inside, which is where all the goodness is. So once your lemons have come to the boil, take them out of the water. These are some that I boiled just recently. Take them out of the water, pop them into a plate or into a bowl, and just allow them to just kind of sit there and cool down naturally, because you want them to be cool enough so you can handle them. It might take sort of 20 minutes just to allow them to cool. As I was saying, I've done nothing to the lemons except boil them so far, because I usually get questions when I do whole fruit cooking, like, are you sure we should be adding the skin? Absolutely. Now the only thing I'm going to remove from these lemons, I'm going to try and remove the seeds if they've got any seeds inside them, but also you see, just sometimes you just got that kind of knobbly bit, on the end of it, that little green sort of stalk. You can get rid of those. Just check to make sure your lemons have no stalk. And then we're just going to slice into the lemons, and I'm doing this all over the bowl because I don't want to waste any of the juice. I want to catch the juice. So I'm going to slice my lemons into, a couple of pieces, maybe halves or into quarters. And in doing that, you're going to expose whether there are any seeds inside of it. And the seeds you want to remove if you can, as many seeds as possible. Remember, no juice, you want to keep that juice, but try and remove as many seeds as you can from your lemons. Give them a bit of a scrape down just to see where those seeds are hiding. And the reason why we're removing the seeds is they can make it a little bit bitter, which is what we want to avoid. So once you've sort of gone through your lemons, you've had a bit of a look, and you're pretty confident that you've been able to get all those seeds out, cut them into maybe smaller pieces if need be. Oh, look, I just found 2 more seeds hiding everywhere. Cut them into just slightly smaller pieces if need be, because what we're going to do now is we're going to take those well seeded lemons, and we're going to pop them into a little food processor and give them a bit of a blend. So we want to create almost like a lemon puree here. So in doing that, remember, juice and all. I know I've said it enough times, right? Because it's really where the goodness is. And you'll be pleasantly surprised just how awesome they are. So pop those in, obviously juice and all. We ain't wasting nothing today. And then if I plugged in I have my little food processor here. And you want to create that lemon puree that I was talking about. Here we go. I like to start off slowly with this just in case there's a little bit of juice that tries to come out, depending on the size of your food processor, obviously. So let's have a little bit of a look. You sort of see the juice kind of squirting out there. It's not too bad. So depending on the power of your food processor will determine how long this process does take to come through to a smooth paste. At the moment, I've got big chunks, not ideal. So I'm going to turn up the volume, turn up the speed, and go for it again. Remember, we want a puree. Okay, I am happier than I was a couple of seconds ago because now we've kind of got this paste-like action going on, which is kind of good. There's still a few more chunks in there, so I'm just going to give it one more blast to get it really nice and smooth. Alright, we are looking good. I'm happy with that, which means that we can now get the rest of the cake ready. So the rest of the cake's pretty easy to do. This is kind of the hardest part. I love recipes like this, as you guys know. But what you want to do now with your puree is just set it to the side. We're going to need about 200 grams of puree in total once this is all being said and done. About 200 grams. So you might find, depending on how large your lemons were, that you may have a little bit left over. Do not worry, you can keep your lemon puree for other things. In fact, what I like to do is actually put it in a jar, put it in the fridge. That'll last for 3 to 4 weeks. You can add that to dressings. You can turn that into a tea with a little bit of freshly grated ginger, hot water. You've got your own special homemade lemon ginger tea. You can add it into stews if you want to add a bit of acidity, or into sauces, things along those lines. Or if you want to add a bit of tartness to, say, a coconut yogurt, just a little bit of that lemon puree is really nice. So set aside your lemon puree. We won't need that for a while, and we can start thinking about getting onto the cake part of this. So over into my cake mixer, you can see I have here, I'm going to add into my cake mixer 3 eggs, and these are large eggs that I have left out at room temperature because we will be fluffing up our eggs, and they get a lot more air added into them when they are at room temperature. And you'll find with most baking, it is always called upon to have eggs at room temperature. So I've got my 3 eggs in there. And along with 3 eggs, we're also going to be adding into it 200 grams of our zero ash sugar. This is our pure erythritol. So let me just grab that. I've got my scales here. So 200 grams. Now we're using zero ash sugar. As you guys know, that zero ash sugar has 0 calories, it has 0 laxative effect, and it has 0 effect on your glycemic index, which means that it's not going to spike your blood glucose or raise up your insulin levels, which is really, really important if you're not just weight loss, but also just for health as well. So you're going to add into those 3 eggs, you're going to add 200 grams of our zero ash sugar, which is 7 ounces. That is going to go in there, and once that is in there, we're just going to pop that back onto the cake mixer, and you want to give that a really, 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 really good whisk. And I'm going to do it on high for about 4 minutes because we want to get lots of air inside of there. We want to make sure that by the time our whisking is done, that's why I'm using an electric one, that it's light and it's fluffy and it's got a lovely pale colour to it. So take about 4 minutes, but definitely do this on high. Alright, I am pretty happy with that result. You can see the difference from when we started. Our egg and our sugar, 0 sugar mixture is lovely and light, it's lovely and fluffy, and it does have quite a pale look to it as well, which basically means is we have added lots of air into it, which is going to help to give our cake a bit of a rise. So as you guys probably have already realised, this cake is sugar-free because we're using 0. It's also gluten-free and it's dairy-free as well. So there is a lot of reasons to fall in love with this cake. And for me, you know, one of the main reasons is that lack of gluten, that lack of sugar, and makes it quite a low-carb cake. So we don't need our mixer anymore, but we can still work into our bowl if we like. And what we're going to do next is we're going to be adding in a little bit of fresh lemon juice, would you believe? A little bit of fresh. So I've got a bit of a lemon here. There's so much lemons in this. We're even going to be making lemonade icing. A couple of different versions of my lemonade icing if you want to. In fact, this cake is so good it actually doesn't need icing, but if you want to make icing, we're going to make that as well. Lemons are juicy today. So straight into our egg mix, just add about 2 tablespoons or thereabouts of freshly squeezed lemon juice goes in there. And then we just want to give it a little bit of a mix through, just like that. And we're going to start to incorporate now our dry ingredients. So our dry ingredients, there's a couple of different things that we've got going on here. Nothing too major or scary. I have in my bowl here 300 grams, which is 10.5 ounces of almond flour. You could also use almond meal. You could use any type of nut or seed flour that you want to use. I'm going to be using almond today because it's got quite a neutral flavour. I find that cassia is also quite a neutral one as well, but I'll leave that up to you. We need to add a bit of a raising agent. I'm going to be sifting this in just to make sure it's well blended. And our raising agent today is 1 teaspoon of baking powder is going in there, and I'm going to be adding a little bit of baking soda as well. But baking soda is going to help to give it a good colour, an even colour, but it's also just going to help with that raising just a little bit. I'm going to be adding in 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. Let us not forget that we need to add a little bit of salt. Salt's going to help our palate to detect the flavours in there, so just a pinch of mineral salt goes in there. Give it a little bit of a sift into our flour. But as well as that, the other thing I'd like to add in today to help with the sweetness, but also just to help with that prebiotic quality, so it's going to help with that wonderful dietary fibre, we're going to be adding in a bit of inulin powder as well. And the amount of inulin that we need today is 60 grams, which is 2 ounces. So 2 ounces of inulin, might as well put it through the sieve as well, goes in. 60 grams. As I said, it's going to help to really, oh, it smells like cotton candy. Cotton candy or fairy floss. Amazing. It's really going to help to give our cake that wonderful prebiotic quality. It's going to increase the fibre content, the dietary fibre, which is really important as well, and give it that wonderful, wonderful sweetness. So give that a little bit of a stir together. And now all we have to do is to mix everything together. So we've got our egg, which is looking fabulous. We obviously have our dry ingredients, and let's not forget the lemon puree that we did originally as well. So let's start here. Put my egg mixture back on here. Egg mixture is back on, just zeroing off my scales. Come on. Doesn't want to work today. Oh, there we go. All right, so I'm going to just sprinkle over about a third of the dry ingredients. Sprinkle it over. Notice how I am, being quite careful with this. And the reason being is we don't want to knock out any of that air. So we're just going to be folding everything together. So we're going to fold those through. Just like that. We're going to start now to add some of that lemon puree. Remember, we need 200 grams or 7 ounces of our lemon puree. And once again, kind of sprinkle if you can. Lemon puree is a sprinkle as well. I'm doing a bit of a sprinkle here. And fold in. Remember, 200 grams or 7 ounces in total, and any of that left over, you know what to do with it now. It's pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to add in the remainder of our dry ingredients. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. That's going to go in. And you actually get a really decent sized cake out of this. It's probably going to serve 8 to 10 people. At a minimum, you get a really large cake, really nice big slices. So, a little goes a long way, because this cake does have a very distinct flavour thanks to that lemon zest, because that's where a lot of the flavour in the lemon comes from, not from the juice. It's actually from that skin. So this is looking good. I'm happy with this. Make sure it's well blended, but gently folded. I'm just going to add just a little bit more of our lemon, so make sure we've got our full quota, which is 200 grams. And we just need to bake it now. So I'm going to be adding this to a tin, obviously, a cake tin. It's around 22 centimeters or 9-inch cake tin, really well greased, and then also non-stick paper on the bottom and the sides, because otherwise this cake might stick. And we're just going to gently flop it in to our cake tin. You want to be, this is definitely the time that you want to be a little bit more gentle with everything, because of, just being too rough and mixing, beating instead of folding at this point in time will do a lot of damage to those egg yolks. So we want to make sure that we are doing it justice by being gentle, being as careful as possible. Give it a little bit of a squish down. And now this goes over to the oven, and by the way, I have the oven set at 160 degrees Celsius, which is 320 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to be popped into the middle of the oven, so make sure that your wire rack is set in the middle, and you're going to bake that in the oven for about 50 to 60 minutes. I'm going to the oven now. So it's been just over 55 minutes cooking or baking in the oven, and I have to tell you, I am pretty happy with it. It is looking pretty fabulous, lovely and golden brown, just such a wonderful overall colour, and it's risen nicely without them deflating. That's always a good sign that you've beaten it really, really well. Now, the way to test whether your cake is done is firstly to take a look at that colour, of course, that golden colour on top, and then the other thing that you can do is take a skewer and just insert it into the middle of the cake, and that skewer should come out pretty clean with just a few little light crumbs clinging to the skewer. You know it's cooked. It smells, oh, can I tell you, it smells absolutely brilliant. I know you're going to love it. So at this point in time, what you want to do is just allow your cake to cool on your wire rack in the tin for about 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, you can turn the cake out and you can leave it to cool for, maybe another half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And while that's happening, you could even consider doing something like the icing. So we're just going to leave this cake to cool now while we make our icing. So yes, indeed, we are using 0 as sugar, which is our 0 calories, 0 glycemic index, and 0 laxative effect sugar to make our icing today. Now you can purchase your own Bridget's Healthy Kitchen Zero Sugar by going to bridgets.shop, where you can not just purchase our zero sugar, you can get our inulin powder as well, which is our dietary prebiotic fiber. You can get our sweet as fiber syrup, plus of course ebooks and cookbooks and all those sorts of wonderful things. So to make the lemonade icing that we are going to be making today, this is actually a recipe that I invented for another lemon product that we baked a couple of months ago when lemons first came into season, and I was going on a bit of a lemon buzz. Look, to be honest, I'm still on my lemon buzz, because in the last couple of days I've shared lots of lemon recipes with you guys, because it's winter coming into spring and this is really when lemons are in abundance. So the lemonade icing that I made invented before, we are going to be using on this cake just with one little variety if you want to do it. Now, the cake that we made before was more of a loaf actually. It was a lemon tea loaf. If you would like the recipe for that, you can get it. It's already online. I even did a video for it as well. Just go to modkai.com, which is our recipe sharing platform, and you can download your own version of my lovely lemon tea loaf with a lemonade icing. So let's get into the icing recipe for our cake, just in case you haven't seen it. And as I was saying, I'm going to be adding just a slight variation onto our lemonade icing today as well. So in my bowl here, I have my zero as sugar. You will need 150 grams of zero sugar for this, which is about 5.2 ounces of sugar. And what I actually did, and I'm going to show you guys just how easy it is I took what is quite a granulated product, because our normal zero sugar, I'll show you, it's granulated. So it really does look like your normal sucrose or table sugar, as you can kind of, are you ready? I don't want to spill it. Can you see? It's quite granulated, right? Yeah, so it's quite granulated. But what I have done to it is I've turned it into almost like a powdered or icing sugar. And I'm going to show you this too. Yeah. So you can see now it's kind of powdered. And this is going to help to make sure that our icing isn't grainy. So the way that you can turn your zero into icing sugar or powdered icing, so easy. You just need one of these cool little bits of equipment. This is a coffee or spice grinder. They don't cost much, for about sort of 20 to 40 bucks for one of these. And I use this every other day in my kitchen. It really does get a workout. So you just put in enough of the zero to come up to about halfway. You don't want to overload the spice grinder, otherwise it may not get through it quite right. So you just grind it up in there just by pushing the buttons. Bit of a shake. It doesn't need much. It needs like, wah, then you get that. But you just love that haze that comes off it. I've got icing sugar now. Well, this is no calories and basically no sugar. And so 150 grams in total. Give this a good bit of a bang. It might be noisy. Give it a good bit of a bang, and it'll just get out those last little bits that do tend to want to hang out in there. And then you've got your powdered sugar. Easy, right? So now we're just going to add the lemonade-ness to our lemonade icing. How are we going to do that? Of course, we've got more fresh lemons. So you want to add, depending on just how thin or how thick you like your icing to be, you're going to be adding around about sort of anywhere between 5 to 7 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. And of course, you don't want to be adding any pips here, so this is one of those jobs where you want to use a lemon squeezer just to make sure you're only getting the juice in there. So 5 to 7 is around about right in order to get the icing to the correct consistency. But the reason why I'm not giving you an exact amount of time is that everyone's different when it comes to icing. Some people like it really thick, whereas others tend to like it a little bit more drizzle-like. So right now, as you can see, I've probably got about 5 tablespoons in there. I have a very, very thick icing. I'm going to add a little bit more because I like mine to be just a little bit thinner. Ooh, I love that sound. I love that smell. It's smelling good. Oh, look at that. A little goes a long way when it comes to adding any type of liquid into your icing. And at this point in time, I'm pretty happy with that. I quite like, as you can see, that consistency that we got going on there. It's just dropping off my spoon. And I'm going to leave it at that. So right now, you could literally, once your cake is completely cool, of course, you could put this icing straight on top of the cake. You don't have to, of course, use icing. You could just go au naturel, because the cake tastes really good on its own. Just with a little sprinkling of inulin on top of it. Amazing. You could totally do that. You could do unsweetened coconut yogurt as well, or even coconut yogurt sweetened with a little bit of our powdered erythritol, powdered zero sugar. That's really nice. You could also do a whipped coconut cream as well. So you're taking the thick part of the coconut cream and then leaving it to harden in the fridge so it gets really almost like a very thick whipped cream itself, and then you can sweeten that with a little bit of your powdered erythritol or some inulin just to give it a bit of a prebiotic quality. So you could do all of those types of things, or you could just, like I said, leave it naked, because it's actually really good just on its own. So if you wanted to, icing, done, right? But there's another little cool thing that you can do as well, which is you can add a little bit of grass-fed butter in here just to make it a little bit buttery. So you want to add, and this is all depending once again on you and what you like. I've got a couple of tablespoons of grass-fed butter in here, and it's just melted through. I'm just going to add just a little bit of it at a time, and what you're going to get is just quite a wonderful, and it's going to get a little bit thicker, and it's going to get a little bit creamier of your icing until you have a very spoonable icing. But once again, if you want to thin it down, just add some more of your lemon juice. I mean, you don't have to add the butter, but it definitely does give it quite a nice element there. And your icing is done. What you're going to do is put it on top of your cake now. And now, for what is probably the best part of the day, our cake has cooled. So we have this on this gorgeous, gorgeous wooden cake stand. We have finished up our icing. Our icing is here. We just need to ice our cake now, slice into it, and boil the jug and make a cup of tea to go along with it. So just once your cake is completely cooled down, like I said, it's going to take, depending on, how warm it is in your part of the world, could take half an hour to get it cool enough to get the icing on, could take over an hour. I was a bit sneaky, and I cheated ever so slightly, and I put my cake in the freezer just to speed it up. It was about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So just take your icing, pop it on top. Remember, you don't have to use icing. You could literally use, sweetened coconut yogurt or unsweetened coconut yogurt. You could leave it on its own, because it really does taste quite fabulous on its own as well. And that's it. You've just got the perfect cake just like that. I actually like to just kind of put on my icing, but I like to spread it right to the edges, and I'll show you why in a second. Just like that, nice and even. Then I take a little bit of our pure as inulin powder, which literally makes the best snow possible. And using a tea strainer, because it's so good to, as you can see, ice away here, I actually ice on the edges of my cake, which I really like. And don't be shy when it comes to the icing either, because it really is the finishing touches on what is a very, very fabulous cake. Now, of course, you could either eat this now, which I suggest you do, or you can put this into a container with a lid. It'll keep in the fridge for about 4 to 5 days. If it ever lasts that long, who knows, right? So if you'd like the full recipe for our holy lemon cake, all you need to do is go to modkai.com. Don't forget, that is our free recipe sharing platform. You can either look at the recipe online, make it straight off your phone or your laptop or your iPad, or you can download a copy of my whole lemon cake and you can print it off and you can keep it somewhere special. So thank you all so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on board. I hope you enjoy this cake. I hope you make it. It's pretty delicious. Until next time, join me again back here in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen studio. Until then, everyone, be well and be safe. Bye.